Meow, I'm Huples Cat. Over the years I've collected a lot of books on preparedness, bushcrafting and survival, and I got rid of most of them that I found no use to me. I probably have 100 or so, maybe more books. But what are the top 10 plus a bonus 11th book that I actually feel out of all of my collection, my personal collection, I feel are absolutely essential texts to have to survive emergencies? I did a review of this book years ago and it's not very good, but it still gets views and I'm glad it does. It's an absolutely beautiful text, it's full of information, it is useful, and I like to read it because it gives me a more balanced and realistic viewpoint about what would happen in an SHTF scenario. People read all sorts of prepper fiction, and most of that prepper fiction, they get a girl, they get a gun, and they end up surviving. The truth is, most people are going to get shot. This is representative of the collection. I have quite a few books on the same topic for certain topics which I believe are absolutely critical if the power goes out. I need to be able to identify things with 100% certainty, and I need to be able to use the materials and eat the ones that I can. I critically need to avoid killing myself. I have about 10 mushroom books. This one I picked just to show you. It's specific to the continent I live in. I have other mushroom books that are specific to the area of the continent I live in. But I like this one because it has colour plates. Most of them are black and white drawings. They're not very good. But in a massive ongoing disaster, I'm going to have to eat mushrooms. Right now I'm too scared to do so, unless it's a puffball. But I found some oyster mushrooms today, but I haven't 100% identified them. Unless you've got 100% certainty that it is in fact an oyster mushroom, to eat it could actually put you at risk. There's also methods and techniques of eating and touching poisonous fungi that lets you identify whether it is in fact poisonous and whether you in fact can eat it. I'm a retired ICU nurse, so I'm not really bothered about this, and I would do this sort of thing in a massive disaster for my loved ones. It's not a detailed text, it certainly doesn't make me a neurosurgeon. What this type of a book does, tells me how to identify an issue, how to emergently treat it, and then what to do later on. A lot of this stuff I have from my nursing experience, but it doesn't hurt to read a format that is specific to disaster scenarios, because a war is a disaster. If you're preparing and you don't have a copy of this book, hard copy of this book, you're crazy. It's full of fascinating information, stuff I didn't know as an ICU nurse, and stuff that you should know in a massive disaster if there is no hospital. In addition, you should have hard copies of when there is no dentist and when there is no midwife. You won't be able to take them to hospital, you won't be able to check it out on the internet. If you don't have the hard copies of stuff like this and it's an ongoing long-term disaster and you need the information, you better have it. Now, surgery is a bit risky at the best of times, but medical treatment is important. And as you can see, I go through these regularly, and I was actually doing a series on this, which I have postponed for the time being, because I think it's more of a winter thing. But this type of information is absolutely invaluable. It tells you the drugs to use if you have them, tells you the treatments to use, tells you the side effects, tells you the problems you might encounter with specific diseases. Again, absolutely a great source, and you should have a hard copy of stuff like this. If you want to blow your neighbours up because you don't like them, this is a great book to have. I actually don't think that this book is necessarily a top 10 book, but it is for me, because I live in the middle of a forest. I can't rely on having a network of people that will keep me safe from anybody that comes into the area. But I can, with a bit of chemistry and a bit of bravery, actually create munitions and stop people attacking me. And of course, having booby traps might also come into play where I am in an ongoing SHTF. None of this stuff should be used, but if things have really got bad, you might be glad to have a book like this, so you can use the chemistry in this book to actually create things that you might need in the absence of policing. So you grow vegetables. You'll have to grow about 600 to 1,000 pounds of vegetables in a disaster scenario if the grocery store stays shut. That's a tall order. A book like this helps you get started. Like every other skill, get out there and practice it, even if on a small scale. Try. Gives you a lot of basic information to garden. But make no mistake, in an ongoing disaster, you won't be living off tins of spam that you dig out of those cities. You won't be having herds of buffalo. What you'll be having is found and foraged seeds and nuts and berries at certain times of the year. If you can't grow your own plants and store them, you're absolutely going to die as soon as you use up your stores of food. Gardening is an absolutely essential skill for prepping. As it's not being able to go to the shops. This is a fun book, I've got a few like this. You should never produce any garbage if you're truly self-sufficient. Now, I'm a long way from that, but this book is detailed and it gives you lots of ideas about what to do with your garbage. It tells you how to build things. You do need some of the tools, of course. This book is useful to me right now. I look at it a lot. I'm really happy I have it. Again, this would be a top 10 book for me. I don't want to lose this book in a disaster. Okay, if you're a regular viewer, you know what my focus is, what my hobby is in terms of prepping. And of course my number 11th book that I absolutely think is essential. From start to drop, you better have a book like this hard copied and you better have read it at least a couple of times. The information's a little out of date, but it actually is in date enough to be useful. It gives you specific things to do, tells you things you shouldn't do, tells you how to make a deep trench using doors. Detailed, specific. In terms of preparing for and surviving a nuclear war scenario, absolutely 100% this is the go-to book. There are smaller versions, there are older versions, there are online versions you can print out. You absolutely need a copy of this, and you need to have read it several times and actually have the materials to implement the ideas in here if you have to. Well, that's it for me. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe because it validates my existence. And whatever you do, make sure your information is appropriate and useful to you wherever you are and whatever you might face. Doodles. This has been a Well Prepared Terrier 2024 production.